In today's edition of Nobody Asked You, I'm going to talk about how many planners is too many planners. Hi everybody, today I am giving you one of my Hot Mess Saturdays, which is videos I'm doing in the month of October for Vlogtober 2020, where I give you my unsolicited opinion, my spicy hot takes on various things, specifically about the planner community, but they might not be. Today very much is, though. Now, if you've been in the planner world for any amount of time, sooner or later, you are going to discover, if you haven't yourself already sort of fallen down this rabbit hole, the land of multiple planners, living the multiple planner lifestyle. Stacks, like this is my current planner stack. When I asked for topics of what I was going to talk about for Hot Mess Saturdays, one that popped up, I think during my live stream last week, was how many planners is too many? And I don't think I saved who said that comment. If it was you, please let me know in the description below. But I was like, no, that needs to be a full video. Because I have some thoughts. Now, I'm going to preface all of this with this is just my opinion. You can totally disagree with me. That's totally fine. I am certainly not trying to step on the toes of anybody who loves to have 45 planners. I promise you that. But I tend to be a little bit of a sassafras, and that is likely going to come out in this video. I'm trying to remember when it is and why it is the times I've tried to use multiple planners. I'm pretty sure the most I've ever tried to use at one point is maybe 8. It was a couple years ago. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. At the time, with all those planners, I think I may have justified it to myself in certain ways. But looking back, there was at least a part of me that was using multiple planners or attempting to use multiple planners for a few reasons that were not really helpful. And I don't think I really talked about that because it felt kind of shameful. And so I talked about the reasons it sounded like a good idea. I'm gonna compartmentalize my life. Compartmentalize my life, blah, blah, blah. I think a big part of it was that there were just all of these different planners I was interested in playing with and trying, but I like to keep everything in one book, so it made sense to me to have multiple ones so I could just use them all and have my cake and eat it too. And on top of that, it gives you more content for YouTube. Think about it. If you have somebody who does Plan With Me's and works in their planner on YouTube, if you're working in 7 or 8 different planners and you film all of them, that's a week's worth of stuff for YouTube right there, unless you are, some of them are maybe once a month or whatever. But it gives you more content if you're a content creator. And I promise you that there is a demand for planner videos. It's not a huge demand, but there is a demand from people who want to consume a lot of planner videos. I wonder if part of my motivation for trying to use multiple planners was to have more videos, more material for videos. It didn't really matter though. It didn't work for me. And the most I have used really has been a planner and a bullet journal. Planner for my big picture planning, bullet journal for my daily to-do lists. I only just recently started using my bullet journal again because of how down and depressed I've been because of COVID. And I am already having ideas on how I am going to adapt my system starting in 2021. Stay tuned for that. So I'm not saying that everybody who uses multiple planners does it for content. Shit, a lot of them may not even have a YouTube or an Instagram or whatever. And if people do have a YouTube channel and they use multiple planners, I'm not saying that that's why they do it, but that is an aspect of it. It gives you more stuff, more content to show. And if you are on a design team, or if you are receiving product from a company and you get multiple different things, it also gives you more material to show in that aspect the more that you use. This is a very broad generalization, but I've seen it kind of fall into 2 categories. There are the people who use at least among people who post on Instagram or post Facebook groups or post on YouTube. There are the people who have multiple planners, and each planner has a specific purpose. They compartmentalize their life. And then they often have what they call a catch-all planner, which when I first heard that, I was like, what the fuck? Isn't that your planner? That's your main planner. And then you have all these other planners that you use to kind of break your shit down and granular ways. And then there are people, they have multiple planners that they use, but they don't use them all the time. Like they will flip around, they will use whether they have discs or whether they have rings, or even people with coil-bound planners will switch between planners based on what's interesting to them at the time. Like I'm feeling like a horizontal kind of day, so I'll use my horizontal planner, or it's feeling kind of like a daily day, so I'm gonna use my daily planner. Like that seems to be the other side of it. When I tried to use multiple planners, I was in the first group, the person who wanted to have planners for different aspects of my life. I remember I had like a meal planner, and I had my regular planner, and then I had one for church, and then I had one for social media, and blah, blah, blah. And it was too much for me to keep up with. Now that I've sort of rambled about this, I want to kind of talk about how many planners I think is too many. Figure out how much time you're willing to invest in sitting down with your planners. Where is that line for you in terms of how much time you want to spend every week planning, every month planning, every day planning? Like if you're using a planner to actually plan your life, and then you actually want to execute upon those plans, how much of your day, how much of your time do you want to spend on those planners? So think about how much time. Then think about how many planners you would be able to fit into that time, right? To do what you want to do. Then subtract one. That's as many planners as I think is reasonable, because that gives you extra like padding for room. Now, that's kind of a cop-out answer, because honestly, I can't tell you how many planners is too many planners. You have to figure out that for yourself. So I guess the question would be why? Why do you want to use so many planners? Is it because you feel like compartmentalizing your life into different areas is the most effective for you? For me, that actually is what I thought it was going to be, but I learned that that's not the case. That compartmentalizing my life too much, it actually like frustrated me more, and I was more frazzled, and more shit was not getting done, and it just didn't work. And so for me, it actually makes more sense to have one planner. When I have work stuff, it goes into my planner. And when I have children's stuff, it goes into my planner, because I want to see my whole life at a glance. And my whole life is work and church and kids and extracurriculars and friends. Well, in theory, it's COVID right now. But like my all of these things are my life, and I need to have them in one spot. Otherwise, I'm seeing things in pieces. And if I'm seeing things in pieces, then sooner or later, each piece is going to be occupying more space than it should be, because there isn't anything keeping it in check. Does that make any sense? I don't know. So there's that, right? There's this idea of like, are you somebody who is more organized and more effective in the things in your life that you want to do when you have everything in one place? Or are you more organized and effective when you have everything in its own little compartment? Now, I've heard that there is one way to get around this with like Happy Planner and stuff, and that's to buy multiple planners and then just take pieces and put them all together in Frankenplan. And that I think makes more sense to me, because everything's in one spot. I don't know. You ask yourself that, right? And then there's the question of the be honest with yourself kind of question of how much is your urge to use multiple planners based on your want to buy things, to acquire things, to shop for things, to own things, FOMO, all of that, when new releases come. How much of your desire to use multiple planners comes from the fact that you're buying multiple planners and you need to justify why you're buying them? I'm not saying that you can't buy things, or that you're not allowed to buy things, or that shopping is the devil or whatever. But what I am saying is to take an honest look at yourself and ask, do I need to use multiple planners because I keep accumulating multiple planners and I need to put them to good use? Or maybe I need to stop accumulating planners. Or I'm accumulating planners because I'm trying to find the ones that work the best. Like, ask yourself some honest questions about that, because that could tell you an answer. I noticed that some people use planners for like faith journaling or memory keeping or whatever. I'm going to give you a spicy take right here. When you say this is your planner stack, those aren't planners. They may have been planners when you purchased them, but you're not using them to plan anything. You are using them to document. You are using them to journal, or whatever the case may be. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do it that way. But like, I almost feel like the British term, I think it's British people who call certain kinds of like journals and planners a diary, that almost feels more accurate, you know? And I'm not saying this because I don't, like I'm somehow anti the idea of referring to your faith journal as a planner because you bought it from the Happy Planner. Maybe it's just semantics, right? Maybe it's just semantics where I am like, well, if you're not planning in it, then it's not actually a planner. And that goes against like my whole thing of like, do what the fuck you want. And like some people, myself included, sometimes just want to sit down with their planners and their stickers and they have nothing going on, but they want to fucking sticker the fuck out of their planner anyway. And that doesn't devalue what they're doing just because they're not planning out like some sort of a fucking like gala event or whatever. There are so many different things kind of competing with each other in this one question of how many planners is too many planners, right? You have consumerism and companies that are continually putting out new releases. Like, think about it for a second. A company like Erin Condren or Day Designer or Simplified or whatever, they'll put out their planner January through December, but then they'll put out their planner July through June, right? Their academic year planner. Like, that makes sense. But when you have this planner world and everybody's online and seeing all the new things, you might always want to use an academic planner, but then when the January through December planners come out, it's a new shiny and you want that new shiny. So you could buy it and then leave your planner with 6 months left in it and start a new planner, or you could figure out how to use them both together. I'm not judging. I've done this almost every year. But that's the consumerism aspect. Companies want to sell us planners. The more we convince ourselves we need multiple planners, or the more we want to buy things, which then makes us feel like we should have multiple planners, that just adds to it and kind of can cloud what you actually want them for. So are you buying planners and then trying to shoehorn them into some kind of use? Like, I have all these planners. How am I going to use them? Let me go down a list of things and see what might work for me. Like, if that works for you, then that works for you. But I invite you to examine, how you look at purchasing things. So there's the consumerism side of it. Then there is the productivity side of it, right? Will having multiple planners make us more productive? Will we come off as more, like our shit's more together because we're so super organized? And it's funny because I would argue that amongst the planner community, people may admire you for having and using effectively 17 different planners, but then outside of the planner community, there will be people who look down on you and are like, he's playing with your sticker books. And I don't agree with them. The point being though, is that, there's so much pressure on us to be productive, and especially for women, to be productive, to get everything done, to be like the project manager of your life and all the things going on in your life and all the things going on in the lives of people adjacent to you, that throwing planners at that problem seems like a good fix, or feels like it could be a good fix. And then there's the hobby aspect of it, My husband has guitars. I've got guitars on the wall in our bedroom, guitars on the wall in the living room. He loves guitars. You might argue that especially for somebody who is not a professional, that one guitar and one acoustic guitar might be plenty of guitars, as opposed to like the 6-7 guitars we have currently. And he would fill our whole house up with guitars if he could, because it's part of his hobby. And planning, if you're watching this, is probably one of your hobbies. And so if owning multiple planners makes you happy and fulfills that aspect of your hobby, then fuck yeah. I would argue that out of the consumerism and the productivity standpoints, the hobby aspect of it is the one that I really get down with. Like, if it's your hobby, then what the fuck is stopping you? Some rando on the internet telling you have too many planners? But if that hobby starts to cause you anxiety, if you start to feel like you are swimming in too much shit or getting like analysis paralysis and not able to actually do anything with your planners because you've just got too much and you're overwhelmed, then that might cause you to turn around and take like a quick look at why. With all of this rambling aside, how many planners is too many planners? When they stop making you happy, that's when there's too many planners. When you feel guilted by your planner because you're not using it, then that's one too many. When your planners start to overwhelm you, and I'm not talking about the overwhelm that you feel when your life is overwhelming, I'm talking about when they're not helpful for you anymore because there's just too much going on. That's probably too many. Our brains all work in different ways. Nobody can tell you how many planners is too many for you or how many planners is not enough for you or whatever. I'm not in charge of your wallet. I'm not in charge of your mind. I'm not in charge of your life. And so all I can say is, if the number of planners you have is overwhelming you or making you unhappy, or you're spending too much money on planners and trying to figure out ways to justify that you should take a look at it and try and figure out, is this really what's right for me, or am I caught up in something and I need to kind of reprioritize? But if it's making you happy, then fucking go with it. As long as you can afford to do it and you're able to get the things done that you need to get done, then it doesn't really fucking matter how many planners you use, as long as you're happy. That's all I want, is for you to be happy. That's my hot take. I don't know how hot of a take that was. I imagine that as time goes on, I am leaning towards a more minimalistic planner lifestyle. Not necessarily in the decorating, but in the number of planners used and the way they're used. I'm leaning towards a minimalistic life, but I'm still thinking about that, so no spoilers yet. If you are interested in seeing how I plan though, I will be live tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. It'll be a little later than usual because my husband's band is actually going to be doing a socially distanced digital gig to benefit the Special Olympics, so that's going to be pretty exciting. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How many planners is too many? Or at least how many planners are you using? And I'm imagining I'm going to see some people who use like 7 or 8 planners and some people who use a bullet journal and are like, why can't you just use a bullet journal? Because people always tell me that. So I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Just be nice to each other. You can give your spicy takes if you want to, but spice with a side of kindness. That's cheesy. Whatever. Anyway, you guys, make sure you vote. Make sure you check in the description for information about voting. Make sure if you're mailing in your ballots to put the correct postage on it and sign it and all the things. Make sure to subscribe. And until tomorrow, my dudes, peace out.